I'm 30 years old, unemployed, and broke, but I'm still doing my best to build a life for myself and for my wife and my daughter, and my family. And I've been unemployed now for what feels like forever. And I have a degree from one of the top universities for computer science in the US. I have experience working as a software engineer. But because of the tech apocalypse and Elon Musk firing everybody, and because of AI and everything AI can do, I'm not, there's so much competition in the tech space that it's not easy to get a job at all. It's very hard. And so AI has made me not useful as a software engineer. And to be honest, I was never like a top software engineer. Like, I've always been more of a philosopher, like someone who thinks about things, and also a problem solver more than I've been someone who likes to sit down and program all day. So I just grinded, I did my best, and I got my degree. And I had a job right ready for me right when I graduated. And I started that job, but they did not go well for various reasons. So I worked there for like a year and then I left because it just wasn't working out. From then, I took some time to start reading. I was reading, more fantasy books, and I was trying to educate myself and become someone more well-read and smarter because I felt like I was really struggling in that department. And during that time, I was dating my girlfriend, who was now my wife, and so I always see the light in things. And one thing I'm grateful for with my first job is it allowed me to get her engagement ring and wedding ring so that we would be married. And it's one of my greatest investments ever because, even though we've had some tough times, she stood by me the whole time. And most of the times have been tough, even though I did have work as a software engineer. And there were times when we were really up and it felt like we were thriving. For most of the time, I've been like struggling, either while I was in between my first job and my second job, or after my second job, I'm still, I'm still here, So, she worked two jobs while I was trying to figure things out. I saw her wake up in the morning, go to work, and then go to her next job. Like, she really has stood by me. So I'm grateful to have been able to be wise enough to put a ring on her finger and to marry her because she is easy to be with and I love her. So we moved up to Albany and I was working as a software engineer. My job was up in Albany. And then I was like, go during Elon Musk, whatever he was doing. And, from there, I worked at DoorDash for a while. And it was all right. It was keeping us alive for a time. We could eat and whatnot. I had some unemployment coming in and a severance package. So things were, and she was working. And then, things got really stressful. And, this is a story for another time, but we had some issues. So I sent her back home with her parents. And then I was upstate by myself and I couldn't afford anything. And so my car was taken away from me one night. I just went outside and it was gone. And I was like, no, I wasn't mad. I wasn't upset because I was like, it was a matter of time before that happened. I just didn't expect it to happen when it did. But I wasn't upset. So I couldn't do DoorDash anymore. And then, eventually I ended up getting a job at Whole Foods. I worked at Whole Foods for a little bit, but I didn't stay there. And then I got a job as a teacher, and that didn't work out for too long. But those jobs, they served their purpose at the time. They allowed me to continue to do the things that helped me to grow, I feel, you know? And even while I was with my wife, I started to take philosophy classes for logic and reasoning, intro to philosophy, Chinese philosophy, things like that, because I was suffering. I was suffering inside because I couldn't understand what was real and what was not real, and what thoughts I should listen to and what I shouldn't. And so I realized that the only way for me, who has problems with certainty, I have to be certain to move. I always felt I want to make sure I'm right, that I'm doing the right thing. Um, I had to take those classes so that I can start to trust myself more. And so for the year that I was by myself, I was putting together everything I felt like I needed to know. I needed to understand emotional intelligence, emotional language. I needed to understand why people do what they do. I needed to understand where to properly place my attention away from my mind so that I don't suffer, and what really matters most to set my attention to. I had to practice critical thinking, of problem solving, planning, strategic thinking, memory. And so I practiced also, I wasn't with my wife. And, we were really actually separated, because we had problems. It's a story for another time. So I was open to being in relationship with other girls, other women. And so I learned about, you know, all those things, how the women are thinking. And I learned so much because how I thought things were working was just like how any typical man thinks about things working. And it just wasn't the way that it was. But ultimately, I was just never really about it in that way. Like there was something in me that just could not take the route of womanizing and trying to just be with a bunch of women. And so, to be honest, there was a time in which like it felt like I was very popular, and a lot of people liked me, a lot of girls liked me, like it was just obvious. And I liked it. I liked the attention, but it just never felt something that I should progress with, that I should move forward with. And so the whole time I wasn't with my wife, I flirted and stuff like that, but nothing ever happened. And I'm grateful that nothing ever happened, because we're together again, and it's like we were never separated. And we're so happy together now. Everything is so good. And I feel like it's because God blessed us, because when I sent her away for a time, she had a baby. We had the baby, it definitely mine. And she's such a good mom. She took care of the baby for the little bit of time that we were separated. And I was always, calling and checking in, and she was never of the spirit of pushing me away. She always was so kind and wanting me to be present. And of course, I wanted to be present, and so I was present. And so, we got back together, and I changed, and she changed too. After a year of being intentional about improving character, I was just more in the moment. I let go of everything. I became someone who chose forgiveness and to walk a path of just, I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be resentful or bitter or angry. I want to work towards what is good and live a life that is good. And by choosing to hold on to past thoughts that may not even be real or true, it all it did was hurt me and hold me back. And so everything I learned served, I think, to make me into a man who my wife feels more comfortable allowing me to lead now. And in the past, I wanted to just I felt like it was a proper place for me. And I had some good leadership qualities, but now there's a humility that, and I'm humbled because I've been poor for so long now. Like I haven't had a job in some time now. The only jobs I see available are like Dunkin' Donuts and 7-Eleven and jobs like that. And it seems like for a long time now, that would have been a waste of time for me, because even as I am now, I'm very different than how I was before because I've put true effort into becoming what I need to be so that I don't suffer in my experience. And it's been working. And because I've done that, the people around me, like my wife, we're just better together now and improving over time as well, the both of us. And, I do believe that by choosing a path of love and forgiveness and truth, and by seeking wisdom, everything will fall into place. Put righteousness first and everything will be given. And I believe that. And that's what I've done. And that's what I plan on continuing to do. And I pray that everything goes well and that my efforts, I know they will not be in vain because I'm reaping the benefits of enjoying myself more than I have before. It's just the struggle of poverty now and the feeling that there are no available jobs that make sense that fit. So I have to find something now to do to win somehow. So I'm grateful for this experience of being poor and having the time to work on myself ultimately because I learned a lot. I learned a lot from being poor and hungry. I learned to give to charity, to always give to charity. As soon as I have a certain amount, I plan on giving most of everything that I make to charity. And that's a promise that I make publicly because that's who I want to be. Once I hit my certain target, 50% up to 80%, I'd love to give away indefinitely because that's what matters to me most is giving because I've been on the other side. But throughout this tough time, I've had some support and it's from love. It's support that comes from love. And that's what's been able to give me the time to improve myself and to become someone that I'm happy and glad to be. And I've also learned for the rest of my life to be humble because at one point I was up. I was the guy who got the computer science degree. I had my good job making six figures. And then suddenly the world decided that things are going to change. And so humility, I feel like, is knowing that and it's not in my control. And the best thing I can do is choose love and choose righteousness and take care of those who love me and to handle my responsibilities as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a son, as a friend, as someone who cares, as even someone who hopes to be able to serve my greater community of human beings by choosing love and ultimately rebuking what is evil and what causes us to suffer, whether internally or outside manifested. And I learned that God is good. God has shown me the whole time that He will provide for me, that all I need to do is trust Him and just keep on walking the way and everything will be fine. And so far, things have been all right. I have faith in God and I pray all things happen according to His plan. I also learned don't spend money on things that I don't need. When I had money at some point, I was never someone who wanted to buy a lot of expensive things really. But when I was making some money, like I did buy like some name brand clothes that were a little expensive, some sneakers, and I was spending money because I was also saving and investing. But I had a surplus at the time and I spent it on things I didn't need. But after living like this for so long, it just feels like this is my life. I feel like I'm older and wiser now. And I just wouldn't spend my money on such things. I would, if anything, save and invest, give to charity, grow business, like things like that. But spending it on companies that are doing the world a disservice, I would not do that. I feel like I know better now. And I don't feel like I need to be validated by anyone with what I have materially, especially since, in my perspective, having those things, it's It has nothing to do with who I am. And so I'd rather be who I am than be someone to be validated. And so ultimately, I'm grateful for unemployment because even though I suffered through this experience, I learned and I became better. And I learned the people who truly love me and the people who just were with me for a time and did not love me the way that the people who do love me. And so I'm grateful for everything that was revealed in my life through this experience of being unemployed and poor and hurt and even confused. And I believe that choosing a life of poverty for the sake of righteousness and self improvement, or even being forced into it the way that I am, it's a blessing, it's a gift. And it's better than being rich with material wealth, but being poor and unsatisfied on the inside. Granted, being poor with material wealth makes it not so easy to be happy. But for now, I'm doing my best. So I have faith everything will work out for us. And I'm happy for all the love that I have in my life. And so I'm sure there are many others going through a similar situation out there of being unemployed and being poor. My advice, as someone who has been going through it, is look for the good, do what you can, pray the serenity prayer, to be content with what you have, do what you can to move in the right direction. The things that you cannot change, don't worry about them. And pray and be open to receiving whatever love comes your way. Because if you're like me, the ones of us who make it, we're here for each other. And that's what really matters is that these experiences are building people who are compassionate, who have experienced this poverty and would love to make the world a better place. So if this resonated with you, I appreciate you being here. I'll keep sharing these King Logs entries as I grow and learn through life. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.